Tomodachi, watashi wa pumpkin jack desu. Yujin no Haruzu kara kimashita. And today I'm accompanied with...
What the hell? Whoa, I didn't know we had. Did not know we had to speak in a different language. What the hell?
Are we live now?
Yeah.
Oh,
Did you
we
not
are.
hear?
Okay.
I just let us
had a
in,
thing.
sir.
Okay. I had a thing. You ready? This is how I introduce myself. Okay. Dear Red, I wrote you, but you still ain't calling. I left my cell, my pager, and my home phone at the bottom. Anyways, I hope you get this, man. It's just...
Tears come kind of wondering why.
I am at a loss for words. That is. I clearly did not get the extra credit assignment.
Well, now
Sir,
he is. But...
sir, I went deep into that world today. Shut up, Black Betty. Sorry, it's just playing on my earphones, and anybody listening to the stream most likely heard that.
You just approached the good name of Ram Jam.
It's a good song, but I don't need to listen to it right now. That's all.
Not right now. Now's not a good time. No.
No, now is not
Maybe
a good
later.
time.
But maybe
Definitely later. And let
And
me
who are you,
also...
robot?
Yes, introduce yourself, robot.
I introduced myself. What the hell was that bolt? Like, I'm sticking with that.
Yeah.
It feels very appropriate for what we're about to discuss.
Yes. So on today's subject matter, given all the Japanese stuff that I learned today, well, I learned these past few weeks over all the research I've done. Today's subject is perfect blue and parasocial relationships. So the best way to go about this one is to start at the beginning, because this one aged like a fine wine. It's one of those things that, as time's gone by, this stuff is more common now than it's ever been. And I don't know how to feel about that. It kind of worries me to an extent, and then at other times it doesn't. As also a sound check I just got to do real quick, because last time I used a headset, it didn't record. As time's gone by, this stuff is more common I hear
So
myself
we can hear
than
you,
it...
and they.
Yeah, they can
And the
hear
good
me.
people.
The good people can hear me.
And the good people of the Ghastly Hallowverse.
Yes, they can hear us. So,
All right.
Perfect Blue is a 1997 film by Satoshi Kon, Japanese director. It's our first animated feature around here. And I think, oddly enough, because it's our first animated feature, it got to be a bit more violent. No, it's a little more violent.
It's a wee. Actually, it depends. Like, does it really count if it's animated?
Yes, it does.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
It's Perfect Blue.
Right.
Perfect Blue tells the story of an actress, Mima, basically leaving the world of pop and music and transitioning to a mature actress, and the consequences that are suffered for doing so, because the fan bases apparently just did not want to have it. They did not want to hear it. They did not want to accept that she decided to move on to new ventures and basically branch out, thus leading to all kinds of crap just happening to this poor woman, which we'll dissect and discuss. But what's scary about this film is, holy crap, I didn't realize that Bolt is in Mr. B Mania's office. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did my proper due diligence this time around.
Doesn't it look like his just
Yeah. You thought this was by accident? No, this was intentional.
And it looks like there's a bunny killing another bunny in the background.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Just keep going.
Okay. Okay.
What experiments you have going on in there?
Yeah, I was okay.
I'm gonna call the ethics board.
Yes.
Yeah, don't worry about it. Put down the phone. Put down the phone.
Don't put down the phone. Make sure that we know. So, what I was saying before, though, I don't even know how to begin with this one because all I know is when this film kicks off, right? You meet Mima, and I guess like she's the best place to start because Mima is pretty much what I think a lot of people assume pop idols are like, where like they seem to be on paper like these actual wholesome people, but we really don't know what they're like. Like nobody, even with celebrities in Hollywood, like a couple years ago when that case was going on with Johnny Depp and Amber Heard,
Mm-hmm.
people not only did they piss all over the courtroom by bringing those alpacas and shit, but people really developed like this parasocial relationship with the guy where it's like, you guys really don't know the guy that well. Like, you don't know him at all. Like, he's just a regular dude who's
Mm-hmm.
flawed just like everybody else. But people didn't want to accept it. People were like, oh, but he could never do this. Like, how do you know? Because he was Jack Sparrow? Because he was Edward
Right.
Scissorhands? You really
Yeah,
don't know
if
what he's
your
capable
evidence
of.
is who he seems to be in the characters that he's played, that's not that's not good evidence.
Yeah. And
No.
for this girl, she's
And I mean,
kind of,
it's always dicey, like trying to judge a trial from the outside because you don't see everything, you don't hear everything, you don't know everything that the jury knows.
yeah. And at the end of the day, it's really just whatever anybody says and evidence presented. Like, who knows what really happened, right? But I'm not saying this to bash Johnny Depp. My thing is
Mhm.
the way people took it. It was like it ran wild. You had that like it was some kind of concert outside that courtroom, and it's like, guys, this is a court case, not a concert.
Right.
He's not on the set of a
Yeah.
movie. Like, relax.
Right.
But
Because I mean, so we all care about the people that we know personally more than we do about people that we don't know personally. Like we all at least the three of us here do care about um like justice and injustice done to people that we don't know. But when something happens to us personal that we know personally, it hits us in a different way. It hits us on a deeper level.
it
And
does.
I think public figures that we admire are somewhere in between, because I mean there's people that get dragged through the mud in court that we don't know, with some frequency. But when it happens to a celebrity that we like, we get especially riled up because it kind of feels like we know the person. It sort of feels like it's happening to our friend or a
Yeah,
family member. Yeah.
yeah. Like, I'll give a good example. When a couple years ago, I remember I actually shed a tear, not a big one, but I shed a small tear when Macho Man died. And it's like, why do I care that Macho Man died? And it's like, I think my parents were able to tell my mom today. She's like, well, that's because we've grown up with him on the TV in our living room for years. So
Yeah.
like you kind of just have a small attachment to the person, so it's normal
Yeah.
because like
Yeah.
you're not gonna get anything out of this guy again. But when it comes to
Uh-huh.
people like in this case, I go back to Mima. She is the image of her is specifically curated to be sold. That like sort of ballerina doll image. Like the most
Hmm.
powerful image to me in this movie, I actually posted a video of it on Instagram and TikTok. When the guy has his hand out and she's like right there in the hand, like this, like he's imagining her. That is possession. That's like him having her in his hand. Like he thinks he owns who she is when he's doing that. Like that. It's really creepy, but it's crazy how real that is. And it actually became more of a thing as the years have passed since this movie was released. So when she gets out of there, the first thing that she happens to her, because some people can't cope, she gets that bomb to the office, to the studio, right?
Hmm.
Like they actually send that bomb, which could have fuck killed
The
her, and
exploding letter. Yep.
that happened for real. Around that was like that happened for real, like in real life, that actually did happen to someone. I sent you guys the article on that one, and I'm like, why is this the one film that has more real life parallels than the animated film has more real life parallels?
Yeah.
Why do you have to go to the cartoon to get the real stuff?
Yeah. Oh man. The animated one just had to be the one. And it's like, how do we explain this to people? Like, the animated one was the one that went hard. None of the other movies we talked about on this podcast went as hard as this one did.
All those
To be
real
fair,
people standing in front of a real camera. Don't look to that. Look to the
yeah,
drawings.
well, look, it's like that's why it's really hard to to compare the two mediums, because animation you have there's less restrictions and limitations, whereas of course in the real world, real people can't do that. Even if they can, it takes a toll in one way or another, either physically, mentally, and or emotionally.
Well, again, the cool thing about this movie is that the animation is pretty restrained, right? Like, that's actually the other side of it. It's all of it's realistic and not something
Yeah.
you couldn't do with some
Yeah.
typical small low key CG in real life.
Yeah.
Yeah, but cheaper. Because CG, good lord, that thing is
The
expensive.
animation, when it's not grotesque or when it's not portraying something grotesque, it is beautiful. It's a very beautifully animated movie.
Yeah.
Anime has this great way of doing drapery. So like when she's running, the way that her dress moves, it's very realistic. And actually, so something about anime. So I used to really not like the way that anime looked because like I've always been really interested in animation, and so when I was a kid, I noticed that the movement in anime is choppier. Like it's not as smooth and fluid as you have in like Warner Brothers cartoons and that, or even SpongeBob and that kind of thing. And it's because, and I mean, I haven't actually like read this. This is just like what I'm seeing, but it's because they're not doing as many in betweens. There's just fewer drawings in between different positions. So like in SpongeBob, when SpongeBob raises his hand, you might have that as like 10 frames where you have one picture of a different drawing, 10 drawings for 10 frames. Whereas in an anime cartoon, if someone raises their hand, you might have uh, 5 drawings, 5 separate drawings, but each of those drawings they've taken two pictures of each of those drawings. So there are fewer transitional drawings between your first position with the hand down and your second position with the hand up. And I always noticed that, and I always didn't like it, but it's really grown on me. I think that there's I don't know. It's just a different look. I've come to like it.
So when we were kids, a lot of the anime we were getting was actually not very high key anime. Wasn't really well drawn. What's
Right.
fascinating though is that there was a movie that came out. I'll give a quick bit of anime stuff, and then this is to cleanse the palate from and prep what we're gonna do. So like in Japan, when you eat sushi and you go to the high end expensive stuff, they give you a taste. And then you have to
Mhm.
eat ginger to wash the taste out and then get to the next one. This is your ginger, people. We're just giving you know. But I think they call it omakase.
That's what the
I
ginger's
gave
for?
you a taste of the bad shit. Here's the ginger to wash it out, and we're gonna go right back into the bad shit in a couple seconds, all right?
So unapologetic.
so,
Ginger for.
so one of the film that actually had the more animation frames per second, which was actually ahead of its time, beating even everyone else's empirical overlord in the world right now, is Disney. Elon Musk's
Mhm.
true final boss, Disney, is going to. They were doing movies that were, I think, 79 a second, and then one film in Japan beat them, which was Akira, which is a very famous movie, which I actually made a reference to a friend of mine who helped me out this week. You know who you are, living in San Fran, Oakland, right now.
Might
Hope
be
you're doing
okay. Just
better.
stop.
No, they don't. I'm not gonna drop their name. There's 100 people in those areas. Hundreds of thousands of people in those areas. But anyways, she knows who she is. So
Oh,
the way that it goes is that this film was way more advanced than anything in Disney had at the time, and it actually was winning a lot of awards. But here in the U.S., we didn't know about it until the '90s because they didn't send their stuff here back in the day, and nor did the Americans really want it anyway. So a lot of this stuff was sort of you had to really go hunting to get it if you were here in the States. The film Akira, I think, comes out like in 88, 89, and it was way more advanced than anything else. And then other pieces of technology, other pieces of animation were coming out over the years that if Walt, if John Lasseter doesn't see them, we don't get them here, which was films by Miyazaki at the time, like Studio Ghibli. Yeah, because essentially what we did here in the States was we took those in, we saw them, we took the style and we applied it, but in America we're too lazy. We just gave Steve Jobs the money for Pixar and then we just moved along there. And now everything's 3D CGI and we've lost the art of hand drawn animation. There's your ginger,
Yeah, that
people.
really went down the tubes. Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
we're
know. There's
now.
just not the public's taste for it. At least in movies, has really gone down. There is kind of a resurgence though.
Thank
There's this hybrid of CG and hand drawn that's become relatively popular. There's Nimona. Have you seen that?
Mona or Moana?
Nimona. It's on
Nimona.
Netflix. I think that's the name of it. It's about like this dragon girl. It's sort of like medieval futurism kind of world. It's based on a graphic novel, but it does this kind of like the characters are hand drawn, and you can tell that a lot of it was hand drawn, but it's hand drawn that's like touched up to look a little more 3D, kind of halfway between. But that movie. Originally, it was Disney's Paperman, the short that was before. Forgot which movie that was. That might have been the short before Frozen. I
Hmm.
think that was the short before Frozen. But that Christmas movie Klaus on Netflix does it too.
So the reason why that's coming back is, to my understanding, back in like 2017, 2018-ish, an anime movie beat a major Hollywood one for 2 weeks decisively at the box office,
Mm-hmm.
and studios took notice. So like, Dragon Ball Z, The Battle of Broly, beat that M. Night Shyamalan movie, which was expected to be number one that weekend. The one where he has the multiple, he crosses three movies in. It was like
Oh,
un Glass.
Glass. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Where
That was
it's
supposed
split
to be,
and it's unbreakable. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, that was supposed to be the number one movie, and it was not. It
Really.
got his ass handed to it royally by Dragon Ball Z, and a lot of movie critics were like, "What the hell? Like, how many people went to go see
Well,
that over this?"
yeah. The confounding factor, I think, is the fact that it's Dragon Ball Z, and so many of us grew up with that. That
Yeah,
it was kind of letting on a legacy.
but 10 years ago, that would have been unheard. Like 10 years before that, that would have been unheard of. It's almost 10 years ago now. I don't want to think about that. That at Dragon Ball beating a Hollywood production was
Right.
unheard
Yeah.
of.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like after that, I realized like, oh yeah, now Netflix does drop a lot of these like sort of mixed CG hand drawn type films, and they also do like the paper mache sort of nice cutout like the Spider-Man movies are doing over at Sony, which are the best Spider-Man movies in my
Oh, the
opinion.
Spider-Verse movies. That's right. Oh my
Those are
gosh.
amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, folks,
I
as I
mean,
said
I
before,
think that's everyone's opinion.
this is your taste of the ginger. Fuck Tobey Maguire. I hate his movies. I always
Oh,
have. I always
oh
will.
my goodness. Oh my god.
Never.
So,
Now we're gonna get right back into the
right,
mud.
right back into the
Anime
mud.
of 2025 made.
Bingo.
Okay, I'm looking at the
Oh,
list.
he's been in anime since 2003. Fuck him.
For the
22 years in Bone.
uninitiated, for
I
the
think it was in the top
uninitiated,
five.
we have a rolling list of enemies of the podcast. Other podcasts talk about friends of the podcast. We here at the Ghastly Hallows talk about enemies of the podcast.
Bingo.
Toby
Man.
Maguire going on the list.
Yep.
And he never left the list.
Was he still on there? It's so
Yes, he
long.
was still on there.
Well, he's the first person that got to fuck
Maybe.
you from me for the year. So let's keep going. So,
Actually, no, he was not on there.
oh well, there you go.
That
Add him
sounds
to
like
the
bad
list.
bookkeeping from you. But anyway,
Sam
Perfect
Raimi was there.
Blue.
Anyways, back to where we were at. Fuck Tobey Maguire.
Apparently, that was a huge oversight.
So
Okay, yes.
this one
Movie.
had the letter bomb that actually happened in real life to Bjork. That's of all.
Yeah, I looked into that case, and that was a roller coaster of what and the hell did I stumble upon when I saw, like, what was it, Ron Mango's coverage or retelling of that case, and I'm just like, there are many things that went wrong in that entirety.
First
The
off,
least of
why would
which
you
is
hurt Bjork? What did Bjork do to anybody? Like,
that's what I've been trying to, like, figure out, is like, and the kicker is like, the guy, this deranged individual who was a fan of Bjork just by happenstance, was just like, he was very upset with her primarily for dating and having sex with a black man, and it was just, that was the camel that brought the sauce back. Like, he was more or less okay with her being married, having a kid prior to him discovering her, and like having relations with other men. But that one broke the camel's back. Like, that one set him down, like, the interesting spiral that landed him, like, with a suicide note, and just a bunch. Oh, trigger warning for people who are sensitive to those type of things. Yeah, this sort of ends with him committing suicide and trying to bomb New York, an innocent, like, what is it, an Icelander
Norwegian,
artist,
Nordic
Yes,
singer.
Norwegian.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Icelandic,
yeah, Icelandic.
Experimental artist.
Yeah, this innocent woman that is basically just doing her job and just living her life, not knowing that this man had a one-sided parasocial obsession with her.
You know what the
But
worst
luckily,
part?
no one
You
was hurt.
know what the craziest part about that was? Bjork was literally, when he sent the letter out, Bjork was like
Yes,
20 minutes from his house. And it's
yeah,
like, thank all of the universal powers out there that he didn't know that. Because he thought she was
yeah.
at home in London when he sent it
That's
out.
a bizarre coincidence.
Yeah, it's just so
I-
weird. So like Bjork, like,
that was divine intervention at work there, because if he had just actually spent a little bit more time outside of his house, we could be talking about a completely different turn of events.
so I'm
He
actually
could have
good thing.
he could have like ran into her at a coffee shop or something.
Oh, good lord, no,
Yeah.
good lord, good thing that never happened.
I think it's good that didn't happen.
It's
think-
good that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a good
Not
thing.
to say they were promoting him ending his life, but at the same time, yeah, we probably be talking about multiple tragedies at this point if something just happened differently.
So,
Okay, so what's the Bjork story? What's
well,
the Bjork story?
this was the Bjork story, and poor Bjork was like, what's crazy is this happens while the film was being made. So, A Perfect Blue was being shot and edited and everything and drawn. This happened in real life, like within this early in the production. You're like, oh, shit. The thing I wanted to point on that was a lot of these folks that are parasocial, this guy is like patient zero, especially for our podcast today. Homeboy here is like the card carrying example of a lot of these people.
His,
Because
yeah, his is like kind of the type specimen as far as the level of weirdness goes. But I mean, you can think of you can find
I also
people
left
way
out some.
earlier than
I
that.
left out some interesting details with this man, like how they found him. It's like I
Yeah.
kid you not, he had painted his face two different shades of colors and his nipples red. And yes, he did that on purpose because he wanted from when like the police discovered his body, so that when they inevitably reported it back to his family, yes, he did this to more or less spite his family. He did that in such a way, and he like completely shaved his head. It was just he definitely earned the name Manic for sure. But he did that so when they inevitably discovered his body, that like it would be so disturbed and like we like found it to be so grotesque is that they would it would take away a lot of what he was trying to do off of the parents from when like this gets social media coverage. And effectively that did work, but it was like why just a lot of his decision making is just like even down to the process with him, like because he recorded all of like his thought process is basically his downward spiral from start to finish of him like in the process of like finding different methods to hurt Bjork, from like going from acid, one type of acid to a different type of acid. It was just like
You know what was weird
and he prided himself in that.
is that he was also filming this like if he was running a vlog. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
so when you
that
look
was
at
one
the
thing that was one thing that disturbed me too, because the thing that I've always criticized about found footage horror movies is like, why is the camera on? Nobody would be filming this. This is ridiculous.
and then
But
comes this guy.
this man,
Yeah.
this man has
He's like, hold
proven
my
me
beer.
wrong. I watch I watch found footage films much more credulously now.
Yeah, wait a minute. Who are you
Yeah.
talking to? Who do you
Yeah,
expect to watch this shit? Wait, what? Hmm? Okay.
Yeah, it's
So
it ooh.
the letter bomb is the closest one to reality, thank God. I mean, there are some real case, some things that happened in this film that did happen to people in real life, but
mm,
uh, those cases in themselves, Charles Manson, warrant their own kind of episode if we ever go down that line. Sharon Tate.
Manson.
But back to this one though, I want to actually stay with Parasocial people. He's patient zero because essentially he is the real life Mimania in this movie.
Mhm.
Because people like this actually do exist, and it's actually a cultural thing over there, which I'm starting to realize. It's actually very fairly common in those parts of Asia for this kind of shit to go down. So when I went looking into this one, right, the goal now for me is to try and connect stuff like this to real life. I thought I was gonna get maybe one or two. All right, fine, like maybe one, two, three, four, five, six notable cases, right? I think the question over there is who hasn't gotten a fucking stalker, like at this point? Who hasn't been a victim of some kind of parasocial relationship? Who hasn't like had to like why didn't I pay for security? Because it just kept going. I'm like, oh, okay. This isn't stopping. This is a problem. And then like I even spoke to someone that recovered out of one of those relationships on a forum. Like I actually went onto Reddit. I'm like, all right, I'm doing the investigative works, folks. I'm out there on the ground, folks. I'm actually trying to find the facts and get to the bottom of these things so we can figure out what they're trying to do to our kids by indoctrinating. It's happening.
One word, disturbed. Good
So
lord.
I'll actually like bring up another case, which is like I could have actually seen this happen, but back to Romania, me to Mima. A lot of people I think see these idols the way that those people see her, where they think that she is that way, and like these people are really not. And the online part in this movie is like that's the part that's happening the most now. Uh, People blogging as celebrities, people using the online sphere to find them. I saw some cases which actually had laws changed, and I'm not gonna name these fucking people because I don't want to give them any attention, and I don't want anybody to go looking for them because some of them are streamers now, and some of them are sitting in jail proud that the idol remembers them for what they did, and there's laws named after them, so the idol has to remember that they're the reason that that law was passed. That's how insane those people are. So I'm not gonna give those fucking people names. There's plenty. You Google parasocial relationships. Those are the first two assholes that pop up. So I just call them. But the online factor, there's one guy who I'm gonna mention 3 times here. The dude, his name is Ok Tak-yeon. Korean gentleman. He was in a boy band called 2 p.m. They got a couple of hit songs. He's an actor now. And a couple of years ago, this guy is a victim of 3 cases already. He was in a drama called Heartbeat. He was also in a drama called Vincenzo. He was the villain. Homeboy is asleep in his room with his partner from his band in a hotel room, Singapore. Obviously, your privacy, right? He goes to bed. Some people sleep naked. It's their right to do. With him and his friend want to sleep naked in separate beds. It's their business. I don't really care. So, some point in the middle of the night, he just hears "fuck," the beep, and he hears like the door open and shit. And he's like, "What the fuck?" He looks up. He looks up, and all of a sudden, like he sees a bunch of girls looking into the room as he's asleep in his bed. He doesn't go political like ha 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 because he like loses his shit. He just starts shouting like, "Get the fuck out! Get out of my room! Get out of the room!" And the girls like giggle and they close the door. Now, again, how does this connect to Perfect Blue? There is a situation in those countries where people are aware that these people are out there. In Korean they call them sasangs. It's like the specific type of people there. And sometimes establishments will take a bribe just to hook them up. Like, all right, fine. You want to go to this guy's room? Give me $1,000. Here's a clone. Here's a key. Somebody had to give this guy a key because these are those like swipe. The girl swiped the key and they said, "Oh, this isn't my room." She walked off with like her gaggle of schoolgirl friends. Did you say something? Are you guys speaking?
I just
No,
said
he just
oops.
made a
Ah,
face. That
oh,
was
okay.
just like,
I said oops in a feminine voice.
Oh, okay.
That is
thankfully that did not get picked up on audio.
because that is my right.
Yes, it is.
For
It is
those
everyone's
of
right.
you who do not have the privilege of me expressing my right.
Hmm. Oopsie. Fuck. So he freaks out. And you know what? That's actually one of the lighter things that happened to this guy. A couple of years later, he's home. He opens up his mail, and he gets a letter written in blood. And he's like, rational thing. He hands it over to the cops. A couple of days later, he gets another one, and he starts getting a series of letters in blood. He's like, what the fuck? Why am I getting this letter in blood? So the cops, obviously like this is blood, so you can trace the DNA on this and do your best to track the person down. On top of that, there's also such a thing as a mailing address because this person wants to be known. So they go to the house, knock on the lady's door, like, "Hey, lady, yeah, are you cutting yourself to send these letters? Like, what the hell? We live in a post era where people were cutting themselves with Bieber, so now everybody's got to be careful. What happens?" The lady's like, "Oh, I didn't cut myself. See, there's no tracks on me whatsoever. Like, where'd the blood come from? From the part I figured he'd want the most."
There's the reaction I was waiting for. There it is, Red. There it is. Just take a moment. If you need
I don't want a
counseling.
moment. No. This is going to take a moment. I don't want a moment. Oh, dear. Oh, dear me.
And she was
Welcome to
apparently,
K-pop.
Witness
she,
me as I clutch my pearls.
ugh, she was apparently bragging about that shit too. Like, she was on the forums, like, "Look what I did, so he'll love me."
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, he's like, "Are you?" they're like, "Will you beat her now?" Like, the hell no! This guy like legit doesn't care. He's not like, because if you once you see a lot of these other cases, like they're very political. They're very like, I forgive them. They should get some help. Blah blah blah. This guy's like, no, I don't forgive you. I should throw the book at you for doing what you did, and they did. Like, he only they slapped her on the wrist. He went to jail for like a couple of months. But she did that, and I think the other situation this guy had, which was also insane, was somebody cloned his Instagram and started sending messages to his family
Oh, God.
and as him. And after a while, he's like, you know what? I have a ravenous fan base. It's time to actually put these people to use. So he got on his Instagram and he basically said, this person is pretending to be me. I can't do much about it because of the laws. However, y'all can do something about it, which I endorse. And, well, you rally the troops. The troops were indeed rallied, and they figured out who this person was. And the fans were not very happy that, she's harassing him. So,
I mean, I can see something like that backfiring. You're using the admiration that you're using the fact that that a bunch of people worship you in order to tamp down the behavior of another person that worships you. Like, you could easily lose control of that situation, and they could go farther than you wanted them to.
yeah.
I mean, when you put it like that, I mean, sure.
No,
Yeah.
man, these people go fucking far.
What if
Like,
one of them?
I'll
What if one of them killed that person?
that almost happened.
Yeah,
Like, that
and
almost
I'm
happened.
sure that's not what he wanted.
No, and like, I'll tell you another one before we leave Korea and go to Japan, where that actually almost happened too. Uh, BTS gets driven around in these vans. Like, they get a brigade because I guess like now they're considered a national asset in Korea. So these people found out what make, model, and year the vans are that drive BTS around, and they decided to get one, right? So they somehow managed to sneak through fucking Peter Griffin's security, because the security over there is as good as Peter Griffin is. Like, Charles in charge of our days and our nights. That's what he's doing.
You're gonna need a visual aid for that one, not just singing it.
Hey,
Yeah,
hey, hey, keep it down in there, you wacky beetle. The security sucks. So these girls managed to get the bus, get the van in, and when the idols were coming out, apparently, one of them almost went in that direction, but something was off, and they're like, no, and they went the correct way, but then somebody stepped out trying to wave them in, and they're like, no, and it turned out that it was a bunch of fans that were planning on getting them to go into their van so they could hang out with them for a bit. Now, I'm pretty sure that's the media version to not scare people, but I have a feeling those people were aiming for some kidnapping and some bad shit was going to go down. Because what happens when JK gets in your fucking van and you ain't cool? He's not happy to be on the. Oh, somebody from Army is apparently watching. They just commented. Yes. So fucking
He said
we have
it.
the army watching us.
BTS fan base is not referred to as just regular fans. They call themselves the BTS Army.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So back to your earlier point
Topic.
about like what happens if a star recognizes their fan base. Yeah, there's your answer. They literally get a name called the Army,
They
and
march
no
to
one
the hymn
bats
of
an eye.
Idol.
Yeah, this is perfectly fine. This is perfectly fine. This is normal now. This is the new normal.
Do, 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 do. And they're fucking marching to that.
I never want to hear that phrase ever again. It was just wall to wall new normal
That is
in
the new
2020.
normal.
And
Don't say it.
and
Don't say it. It's the old abnormal.
Okay, old abnormal.
The old abnormal. That's what COVID was. Okay, no more.
Oh my
oh,
god.
funny enough, this predated COVID. This was like decades in the making. And as we go to Japan, you'll understand why this shouldn't be as a surprise.
So
Ah,
off to
yeah.
Japan.
Yes, we're like that fucking Street Fighter 2 thing. Now we're in Japan. So here's what happened in Japan. In Japan, pop groups are different. Again, I did a lot of research for this. There's so much. I learned what baby metal is. That's the bright side of this. Anybody listening to
Oh
this, I'm
my
now a
god.
fan of baby metal because it
Baby
somehow
metal.
Why?
made its way in. Yeah, it's actually cool.
Why was that a thing?
I'll send it
No,
to
no,
you
no, no. I'm
later.
good. I'm
I
good.
like baby
I'm good.
metal. I'm sending it to Red,
No,
not you. You don't
thank you. This is just making that clear. I
but
don't
baby
need
metal's good.
to see that
So
again.
in Japan, the way groups work is it's a bunch of people, maybe up to 50, and you graduate from the group and go solo. That's it. Like if you're good enough to rise to the top, you will go on and be on your own. But essentially, they put their schools to work. That's how it sounds like. So enter this group called. Even the names are like convoluted as shit. AK four AK4 AKR4B or some shit like that. It's a very complicated name. They sing like the poppiest pop music you could ever
It,
imagine. And
it sounds like the
AKB48.
it sounds like the
Mhm.
passcode on a router.
Yeah, like if anybody on stream, this is what they sound like. It's like the happiest music.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't know what to name your musical act in Japan, just look at the passcode on your router.
Pretty much
Wow.
what it
Okay.
sounds like.
It's yeah.
So
Oh, an
these
American router maybe.
in Asia, it's very common
Yeah,
for
yeah,
this.
yeah.
It's actually going to be a lot easier to describe what happens in Japan because in Japan is where like the birth of all this stuff starts. So imagine American Idol on acid, like on crack, right? Like a souped up version of American Idol where like a whole community is really a part of this and everybody's feeling it. Yes, all
Mm.
three of us at the same time
Just
now.
imagining like I'm just imagining Lionel Richie, Katy Perry, and Luke Bryan just showing up, all having done acid.
hmm that would have been a great
And that's
episode.
just the starter. That's just the starter.
So you get into that, and then what happens? These people are like basically they treat like if you get your person up to the top, it's like a community effort, which is causing a lot of pollution for people who like to buy 80 albums to ensure their idol goes up. They do that. So everybody has a sort of sense of entitlement, and they're also everywhere. So this band, another thing that they used to do for like more so feel like it was a neighborhood thing, community thing. They used to do these things, and other bands do them, where you pay like $4 and you get to go shake their hand, or you get to go hold the hand of your favorite member of the band. And you'll hear these guys be like, "Ugh, Mima, she's my favorite one. I can't wait to go get $4 to hold her hand." Look at my big fat hat and my neck beard. They go and they shake the chick's hand, and then they run out like Chris Griffin. Touch my feet! Like they have no, they're nothing. They're no relation to this girl. So this guy got really fucking angry one day, and he decides that he's gonna do something about this. And these women are like everywhere. So he walks up to the ladies, he pays the money. Again, Peter Griffin is over there like, Charles in charge of our days and our nights.
Oh, security guards.
Shakes the chick's
Sweetheart.
hand, and then out of fucking nowhere, he grabs a handsaw and he starts to saw on the girl's hand. At which point, security still isn't doing shit. Security's kind of like, I was in charge of our day. So her fucking bandmate sees this and she's like, oh no! She runs in and she tries to do something. At which point he goes, oh, you too. Bam, goes for the girl with the saw. Finally, at some point, Paul Blart sees this shit is happening and Paul Blart decides to do something. Paul Blart runs up to the defense and tries to get the guy to get off. But again, it's only one Paul Blart, folks. He gets the fucking saw and he hits Paul Blart with the saw. So now Paul Blart's like, back up, back up. And then the other security guard finally decide to get this guy out. My question the whole time is, how the fuck did you get the saw in there? How? How did you get the saw past security, homie? Like, the saw, a handsaw is like this big. Maybe in Japan, fine. Things are sometimes more compact. Maybe it's like smaller because like maybe they saw smaller pieces.
But
I
the
don't know.
fact still
But the fact that he
remains.
got a saw in there.
Uh,
So,
yeah.
and like the thing is, he started to attack the chick, and I'm pretty sure this girl is not like, that hurts, please stop. I'm pretty sure she's like, fucking get off of me, fucking making all kinds of noise before the security guard shows up and does anything about it, and everybody else does anything about it. And I'm sitting there reading this, I'm like, what? How? Why? Just why? Like, fine. The guy, like, then when they arrested the guy's like, I've been watching them this whole time, and I got laid off from my job. So I felt that the more reasonable thing for me to do was to grab a handsaw and enact vengeance on something pretty that I like. What? Because they are so rich and pretty and famous, I decided to take revenge on someone that is pretty and that I like. I am Jack's lowered self-esteem. What the
You confused, Red? Perplexed? Lost?
Wait.
Yeah.
Okay.
Get used to it.
Now,
It's just this is part of the course.
in the movie, the Stan uh, develops this backstory to try to rationalize uh, the reality that Mima has turned into something very, very different from what her pop image was. So Mima, she leaves the pop group, she becomes a serious actress, and she starts doing some very lewd scenes. She models nude. She does a scene of sexual violence in the movie that in one of the movies that she made, and he develops this story that it's like, this can't be Mima. It's an imposter. It's an imposter that has Mima somewhere, and I need to kill this imposter to end this madness.
He was
Is
coaxed
Well,
that
into it.
something?
to clarify, he didn't come
Yeah.
up with that. That was fed to him by
Oh,
another crazy person that ran a website
that's right.
claiming
That's
to
right. Oh
be
yeah, he
her.
wasn't running the website. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
so
he was just a
something
devoted
similar to
follower.
that did happen. Not 100% in the same way, but something similar did happen. That's the asswipe. I'm not gonna say his name, but I'm gonna basically describe the case. It didn't happen before when the movie was being filmed. It happened years later. Uh, this girl was like mid-range, low-level pop. So that means like if you look at her Twitter, she only had like maybe a couple thousand people on it. She wasn't anybody major. She's like an indie artist. So this guy suddenly feels like, oh, she responded to my tweet. I I can have I can have her. And he starts to send her books, presents,
Mm-hmm.
flowers to her apartment. Somehow figured out where she was at. She's kind of like doesn't think much like Mima, right? She's kind of like, okay, this is just shit that fans send, whatever. And then the guy officially sends her a letter confessing his love, to which she's like, I I don't love you. I really don't. So he responds basically, then I will never forget how lower than myself you made me feel, and you're gonna pay for that.
Mm.
So he then waited for her outside her apartment. She sent him the stuff back. She's like, you know what? All the stuff she sent it back. She's like, I don't want you to think that I mean I took shit from you. I don't want you spreading that. She sent it back. Which to him was like the closer. This is it. There is no more connection here. The connection has been severed. So he waited for her outside her apartment after threatening her for weeks. The cops didn't do anything because the cops over there are like Peter Griffin and that fucking with the Charles in charge. Or like Chief Wiggum said, the law is powerless to help you, not punish you. Help you. So what happens? That's
Eh,
not funny, but
every
it's
every
how it
ev-
fucking goes. She's saying like this guy's looking at me. He wants to hurt me, and they didn't do shit. So She comes back. He comes back, waits outside her house, and he stabs her. She luckily got away, and she put him behind bars. Like, she was able to ID the killer. She did ID the would-be killer. He goes behind bars. Not a slap on the wrists. She actually does genuinely feel he should get help, and she hopes he gets help. Later on, to my understanding, people who were around him that saw his downfall come in play, they all said something along the lines of he had developed this mindset where he genuinely thought they were together. And
Hmm.
the further away he got from his delusion, the more unhinged and dangerous he was becoming, because it was not none of it was fitting what he thought was the reality of the situation. If that makes any sense. Like, it was all, he couldn't cope with the idea that he really wasn't a part of, that he really wasn't with her. So this "I'm gonna hurt you" mindset kicked in, and it kicked in hard. That's the closest one. Now, the ultimate reveal in this movie, I don't think that's ever really happened, and I hope it doesn't ever happen to anybody unless your name is Tobey Maguire. I
Oh my goodness! Stop! No. There's a line that we're not crossing that. No,
All
we do
right,
not
we'll take a step
condone.
back. I hope that doesn't happen to Tobey Maguire.
You're
Backpedaling.
on camera.
I know.
Keep
Word.
that in mind, Pumpkin.
Oh my god.
Where I should have become a lawyer. That way I could charge you for this.
But that's the closest one. The ultimate reveal, I don't think that's ever happened to anybody. The closest one with the ultimate reveal, uh, which we actually I think we can talk about a little bit too. Uh, so the person that murdered everybody in that movie, because there were a bunch of murders that are the least scary thing about this movie are the murders. Isn't that fucked up?
Yeah, we gloss over that. Just like this completely. Like people actually died in that film.
Yeah,
Like
and that's the least scary thing about this movie. What's scarier is that people like the villains in this movie actually do exist, but the murders, like they're like, yeah, this is fucked up, but I'm just
we have a
waiting.
job to do.
Yeah, like, what was it? The first one with that
What's
elevator one.
scarier is, yeah,
Oh no, the
what's
elevator one wasn't the
scarier is
first
like
one.
not knowing what's a dream and what's not.
That's
See
the other
that
side of
see
this
that
movie.
was the real
Yeah.
horror because it blended so well because you were basically going seeing it from Mima like the former Pop Isles point of view. It's like, are we going crazy together? Is she insane? What's going on here? And it's like at the same and you find out that while she's experiencing psychosis, that was a part of the movie she was like working on for months or weeks. And it's like this does not help her case that she's going crazy in times when she's blacking out and waking up and finding like evidence pointing that she's a killer. And she wakes up to like a news bulletin of a random person that's connected to her dying or like found dead.
So I actually wanted to touch on that too. Has either of you guys ever acted before?
Yes.
All right. So
Nope.
I have too. I used to do theater. I've said it a few times on here in high school. So like I
Yeah,
know a little bit.
I did theater in high school too.
Yeah. So you remember, right? Like they're telling you how to get in character. Like you go through all these little exercises to try to get yourself like in the mind of your character. Uh, I had to do a thug who was. I had to be the kid in 12 Angry Men who was on trial, and there's like a silent role. And then like
Oh yeah.
the second semester, I had to do I was Dracula in the school
Yeah.
play.
I
So
was
like,
in I was in 12 Angry Men in college. But we had a co-ed
yeah.
cast where it was guys and girls, and so we had to call it. So people insisted that we call it 12 Angry Jurors, which is a terrible title. It's a horrible title. Anybody who's doing a co-ed cast of 12 Angry Men, just call it 12 Angry Men, even if you have men and women playing them, because 12 angry people, 12 angry jurors Terrible title. 12 Angry
In
Men
our
is a
high school,
great
they
title.
did 12 Angry Men and Women, and like the first thing that came out among us early 2000s teenagers, everybody said PMS, PMS, huh? And it's like, yeah, what you fucking expect?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, just avoid all the problems. Call it 12 Angry Men.
Yeah.
Go.
So the point is, right, you have to get into character, and when you're like someone like her who has somebody haranguing you every 2 seconds, like, you're supposed to be a pop idol. She's supposed to be a pop idol. Like, it
Mm-hmm.
does hit your psyche, and after a while, you start to lose track. You can lose track of reality, like, real quick. Like, who am I today? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Like, when you wake up. But that final wake up scene was a real, that to me put it together quick. I don't know about you guys, the final reveal, if you guys want to go into that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'll give you
Yeah.
one last case.
Oh yeah. Before we get into that, we have to inform Red on why we decided to make a pit stop in Japan because idol worship in Japan has a name that you might be familiar with. Red, are you familiar with the term otaku?
No.
Okay, so quick brief history lesson. Right around from like the 70s up until like the 90s, like pop, oh not pop, idol culture center around two things. The idols being associated with innocence, whether that be they're just young, pretty looking, and then just being more or less associated with like abstinent and being like untouched. They can't like be associated with dating anyone, having a personal life, whatever. And then the second thing is having a devoted fan base, and that culminated in like the 90s into the 2000s into a genre of people called otakus, which in definition means people who are socially inept and have a high fixation on a particular hobby or um well I guess like something that's like popular that they really really love. And so
So the
in
Otakus
Japan,
are the fan base.
yeah, but it's like that term never existed until like the early 2000s because it's like with the idol sensation like surging during that time and back in popularity is becoming like more mainstream.
Okay.
It was an advent of this because they targeted people who fit that mold, and as a result, otaku culture became more rampant, and it is not a term of endearment to be called an otaku in Japan.
Unless you
It's
live
not.
in
It's still not.
America.
Yeah, well, we're not talking about America. We're talking about good old Japan, where translation is very, very key for these type of things.
Yeah. And other things that are associated with that tend to be usually connected to stuff like loneliness as a symptom, uh,
Mm-hmm.
basically a lack of a social life, because like in Japan you work around the clock. So you
Right.
don't, when work is over, work is not over. If that makes any sense. Like there's a big problem over there where there's a lot of people that actually are passing out on the street drunk because like you go drinking after work with your boss. And if you don't go, you might actually potentially be on grounds for punishment, reprimand, write-ups, and being fired even, because it's like they want to be in together.
Do they have a legal workday, but there's a cultural expectation that that's not your actual workday?
Yep. That's
Okay.
a so there's one
That's the
anime
workday.
that came out last year which captured it the best. This one's a zombie anime, so I would suggest to anybody who's watching this podcast go check it out. Zom 100, where like this guy just loses all color after a while, and when the zombie apocalypse hit, he's not sad that the world's over. He's happy because he doesn't have to go back to work. And like that is a very real fucking situation out there where some people go
Right.
missing. Some people legit just say, "I'm out," and you never see them again. And it's actually like a lucrative business helping people disappear out there. So for anybody who wants America to become a little more like Japan, since we seem to like to do what they do, remember, over there, your end of day is not your end of day. And if you go home early, you get shamed for it. So what that leads to is a culture of people with a lot of mental problems. There was a guy out there who married a cartoon character a couple years ago, and
Oh, not a cartoon character per se.
he married Hatsune Miku, who's a ink and fucking. She's ink and that's it. She performs virtual shows. Fine, she's not a cartoon. She's an anime. She's an anime performer who does these things. Get it right. Get it right.
Do I need to remind you
Get it
of
right.
not pissing off fan bases again? Do I need to remind, especially on this episode and topic?
Well, homeboy rented out a hall, dishes, and everything.
While you were doing that impression. I saw you gaining weight while you were doing it. And like Cheeto dust just appeared on your
damn
black
straight.
shirt there.
All of the perfect ones right there.
It was remarkable.
But anyways, he paid for a whole hall. He brought people in, and when they're like, "Who's the bride?" It was some like thing that's like a cylinder that's a virtual girlfriend that they sell you, kind of like that movie with the Joker. I'm trying to remember that guy's name. He has the cleft lip. Her with Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah.
So they sell that thing in Japan. That's a real thing. It's some like weird tube thing you buy, and when you walk home, it's like, "Hello, how are you? How was your day?" And then like hipsters think they're fucking Ryan Gosling in Blade Runner 2041 when they come home. I mean, that really isn't Ana de Armas. It's a virtual thing that's just there to provide fake comfort for you.
And
you know the sad part is,
the
sad part is like,
go ahead, Bolt.
It's like this exists, but there's also a same service in Japan where you actually could rent a girlfriend.
I saw that.
Keep that in mind.
I heard about that. Yeah.
I saw that.
Yeah. Well, and I mean that's kind of like what an escort is. Like that's not anything really.
Actually,
a little more emotionally involved than an escort. Like an escort is like for, I don't know, just like someone to kind of tag along. But this sounds like, you know, a little more kind of.
I'm not touching that. I'm not touching that.
So there are different.
I mean, neither did I. No.
There are different leveling various of what you can do over there for hiring sex workers. Like you could, if you're a manager, right, and you really want to harass one of your employees, what you can do is instead of paying for a hooker like we do here in the States, good old God honest hooker, you can pay for someone to dress young and then harass them on the clock. You can do that. They sell that. Like there's a service. You can hire a woman in Japan, yeah. You can hire a woman to fulfill your fantasy of being the creepy boss, and she consents to being harassed. It's a thing. You can
in a workplace.
In a workplace. So like, but you're the boss. I guess you have to be the boss. Like I think it would be weird if I were like working there and then I look, my coworker hires a lady that he's gonna go harass. Like this is weird shit. But the other thing that's also weird is when I was there, I actually saw the boyfriend for hire, or at least it looked like it. It was really weird because there was this woman who was like maybe 60, 50s, dressed like a teenager. We thought she was a teenager from behind, and she turned around. No, she's not a teenager. She's an old woman. And the guy next to her looked like he was at least in his early 20s, and he was like holding her bags, kind of like a boyfriend does. And my wife looks and she's like, "That's a boyfriend for hire." I'm like, "No, honey, we're in a K-drama. That's the time traveler, and that's her friend that's supposed to help the couple not get divorced." Anything to not live the reality of what I was just watching. But
that was a situation where you're wondering, like, wait, who hired who?
See, that's a question that you don't want to ask, and also you could look to chat for a question that you don't want to have answered. As in, apparently, you could also hire people to be your grandpa.
Yeah, they do. They hire that. Like, there's a lot of these things people just hire.
No.
You hire a dad. You hire like it's a thing. But why is that? What's at the center of all that, though?
Yeah. So I think that earlier you mentioned like the kind of AI friend, the sort of like, or like the AI girlfriend that you can keep on you. I mean, so many of these things are so weird, like, but that one in a way I think is the worst one because it's like not even a parasocial relationship. Like nobody but you is getting anything out of that. It just seems like entirely self-absorbed. It's like the loneliest thing that you can do
But
because
that is the
at least with
epitome.
like at least with like a live person for hire, like there's another person there, and at least with like I don't know, like some sort of fan content creator relationship. At least there are the
There's a
the
connection.
agents on either side of that relationship are both human beings. So there's at least
There,
both people on both sides are getting like something out of it. Not the same thing certainly, but something. But like the like the like virtual girlfriend thing that just seems like in a way that's the creepiest one.
well, homeboy married a virtual girlfriend. He bought plates. He invited his office. He actually has the marriage. It's legal to do that in Japan. You can't actually go down to the city registry and marry Godzilla if you want. Like that's not. I wish I
Now,
was joking, but I'm not.
but you get like tax benefits for that, or is that
You just
Why?
get a
What?
license. You just get a license and shut the hell up because they needed something to do
yeah?
because those people aren't getting married neither.
I would hope it was something like that because the state has absolute gains absolutely nothing from you like you
Well, it's not the
joining
state; it's
with
the
Godzilla in holy
company.
matrimony.
So we
It's based
got
on people who own the IP.
A company can marry you.
Well,
no.
that's what they're effectively doing. They're selling an
They're
idea
selling you a
of either.
license. That's it. But that's because
Yes.
the wedding industry over there is like kaput. No one gets married.
Oh wait, no, so there's a company that will issue a marriage license for you and whatever object you wish to marry. Is that
Yeah.
what you're saying? It's not the government.
Yeah, but if you take it to the government's gonna be like, okay, so you're married. There's no legal benefit because it's not a person. That's it.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Like we acknowledge
The
your
state
marriage, but
recognizes.
that's it. We don't really care about it. So
Yeah,
this is
yeah,
performative. So we don't care.
sure.
Enjoy your marriage to Large Marge from the movie or whatever the fuck. We don't care. Have fun. Make sure you spend money though, because no one's paying money for catering for weddings. No one's renting out wedding halls. No one's renting out wedding tuxedos. Why? Because everybody's working all damn day. That's why they're having a
Yeah.
problem over there. So what do they
Also,
do?
no one's having
Okay.
kids.
No one's having kids.
I need like a 5-second break from this, guys. Hold on.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Take your
Uh,
time. Don't
But
get
here's the
lost.
here's the ginger. Uh, here
But
we
before
go.
we go into that, can we do a PSA? We do not. This is not us encouraging to go in that type of profession because one, the market is saturated as hell over
Sir,
there,
maybe you
anyway.
should
So,
read what the comment section says so the folks that will listen to this retroactively are aware of what's going on.
I'm sorry. Apparently, our good old viewers, just a viewer and a sinner, are contemplating changing their professions because just a viewer pointed out that it takes only 80K just to show up.
Hey, hey, hey.
And yeah,
Japan is offering breeder visas and porn actor visas because there are also no males in the industry left. Just anybody who needs a legal job out
all
there,
right,
it's a
double
thing.
break.
You can get a visa to be a male porn star in Japan. Welcome back, Red. He needs another break.
I think he needs another break.
Oh my
Or
god.
we should move on to Korea, where it just gets worse.
We left. We
If
have.
you think it gets better from here, it gets worse.
It get much worse. But it ultimately, actually, when I explain the Chinese one, we'll actually get to where this is at. So there's one case that's notable in China. There's an actor called Andy Lau. He's kind of like the Brad Pitt of China, right? He's like one of those like he was a heartthrob back in the day, still is.
Andy Lau,
Sings,
what a guy.
dances. He's one of those types of things. One of those types of deals. Some girl really wanted to meet him. And she did for like 5 seconds at a fan meet and greet. Pictures said, "Hi, you're my favorite actor." Done. However, she was obsessed with this guy, and her parents sold their house, went into debt to support her dream of meeting Andy Lau. When she didn't want to meet him, when she like apparently met him, but that wasn't enough. She said, "I'm still not gonna marry because I feel like it wasn't enough time for him to get to know me. I want to actually get to meet him intimately or whatever." So the dad realizing that she's not gonna get married, she's stuck on this thing. He really wants to make the dreams come through for her. They send a letter to a rep about like how this she's a favorite actor, all these things. And the I guess Andy Lau, reasonably so, gets told about this, and he's like, "I ain't gonna meet that person. The person sounds kind of nuts." So they send a letter back saying, "Hey, he doesn't want to meet, but he hopes that you can get over this and move on with your life someday." Obviously, right? Connection severed. She freaks out. The dad, seeing that he's wasted his life, wrongfully so, sees that, oh no, my daughter isn't going to get what she wants. And I've spent all of my life and my wealth and everything helping her to achieve this dream, and now it's not going to happen. She's not going to get married neither because Andy Lau won't meet my daughter. I know. I'm going to hatch a harebrained scheme to make sure that Andy Lau feels so bad, he's definitely going to meet my daughter. He begins writing a letter, basically saying this is all Andy Lau's fault. Sends it out, goes down to the dock, and jumps right into the water. They found his body.
Whoa.
Yeah, they find his body. At which point, this now makes headlines. The guy blaming Andy Lau for this situation. And the worst part about this story is the lady didn't learn shit. All the lady said was, "I didn't tell my dad to do that shit. He did that shit on his own." But I still do want to meet Andy Lau, though. And when you see the lady, it's kind of like you can tell, right? Like there's something not right from the moment you look at her. Like there's an unsymmetrical balance to the head. Like you just kind of like, yeah, there is something up with you. And I don't blame the lady. After a while, I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't blame her. She has a problem. Mental health is a thing. She should have been, given mental health help. The dad obviously also needed mental help. But this case, when it comes, it's like this is one of the ones that's the most notable out there because he's a they call him one of the princes. According to my wife, he's like one of these people that are like they got the problems. And they interviewed her like I think a year or two ago, and she's like, "Yeah, I still want to meet him, but I didn't know my dad was going to do that." So a lot of people did study this case and the circumstances, and they said like, "Why does this happen?" And if anything, this is the best place to look at it. Like, where can this stuff happen? Um, a lot of it, as we said here before, is loneliness. And it starts with how this girl was raised, which was a big problem, and why we build parasocial relationships, and why these people in particular do. In China, they had a law for a long time, which was the one child only law. So, as a family, you were only allowed to have one kid. That was it. If not, in a lot of families, they want a boy. So if you don't have a boy, fuck you. Off you go to adoption, or you keep it, and that's it. So
Yeah.
that,
Selective abortions.
yeah, and then what'll happen is, right, you'll get the situation where you have a boy, yeah, but he has no siblings. Like a lot of us, we have siblings, or we have friends, or cousins, or anything like that. We have a pool of family to be around to share and build relationships with, but a lot of these people, they don't. And being that there is only one, a lot of families are keen on spoiling. So now you have this situation where I don't have a brother, but Andy Lau's kind of like brother or husband. Me love Andy Lau now. Me not letting go. Period. And that sort of mindset extends further to all the other countries where it's like the community puts these people up on a pedestal so much so it's not by a failure of design why they call these people the term. Like here in America, we don't call them that. We call them pop stars. The term American Idol is like the only time we really do that. But in reality, we call them pop stars here. We don't call them pop idols. We don't. There are people that worship
Right.
them, but it's the that
Yeah.
over there it is the thing. It's
Or
specific so
like
chosen for
when
that.
you're yeah, when we say pop idol, we're typically talking about someone from a previous decade. I
Yeah.
feel like maybe that term was popular a while ago, but yeah, we wouldn't call anyone active
Yeah.
now a pop idol. The
No, but
Weeknd is not a pop idol.
yeah, he's a pop star.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
over there, and that term is now starting to get used here. They call them pop
Mhm.
idols, but it's like that is term that's for worship almost,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's where that begins, and then you get people like, well, I'm just gonna say the big reveal. Spoiler alert, folks! 30-year-old movie. If you haven't seen it by now, you're not gonna. You get people like Rumi, who, in her case, she was, I think, at some point a pop idol, and then she got old, obviously lost her figure, and then she projected the image in a Norman Bates fashion onto Mima. And when she's typing away in that blog, she thinks she's Mima, and anybody who fights the delusion is going to get it because that's how that works. There was a case I
Mhm.
think I showed you guys. The lady who sent like 64,000 text messages to one guy saying she
It wasn't 64. It was like
100. There we go.
157,000.
Thousand
Yeah, I
text
saw that
messages
today.
Give or take
Oh
a few
Lord.
100,000.
with like
Well, and the funny thing with
I don't
that,
know if I don't know if I've sent 100,000 texts in my whole life.
no. The average
mm,
person at most has sent at least 20 to 30,000 text messages. And this is like from the moment you first get your phone all the
Yeah.
way until the end. Like it's not, and the content of those messages were fucking insane. Like this girl's like,
yeah.
I have solved the equation of love, and you are the
Oh
love light,
God.
and I am the love, and
Oh,
you must unite with me. But then like when the people who are
That's like some
interviewing,
twin flame shit.
oh, it is like to the max. When they're asking her like, hey lady, yeah, you're saying you want to kill him though in your messages. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. That's not what
I
I
want to
want
talk
to
about
talk about.
nice things.
Nice things, but it's like
Like,
that action right there is busting up the delusion. So it's no surprise, right? The last time we see the manager, he told Rumi, "Hey, yeah, um, she's gonna be doing more raunchier scenes because apparently this is a hit." Huh?
famous last words.
Then
Famous last words.
when you start to piece it together, she's killing people that she thinks are pulling her further from the delusion. First, she thinks if I kill the screenwriter, this is going to solve the situation. Does not. So if I
No,
kill
no, no. Well,
the
she went after the manager that
no, the
was
screenwriter
basically
got it
advocating
first
for.
in the elevator, and then she went after the manager. The
No,
pizza
no, the
box
elevator
came
came
second.
after.
No, the pizza box
I
comes
remember.
second.
eh,
Yeah, the
I'm
pizza
pretty
box
sure
comes
it was
second
the
because then she
manager
does
with.
the pictures. She does the pictures of that photographer, so she kills him. And then after
I'm willing
that,
to bet you it was. I'm willing to bet you it was the manager with the letter bombing because that was on her first day of
no, the
like
letter
on the
bombing.
on
It's
set.
the letter bombing, but the letter bomb was meant for Mima. It wasn't meant for the manager.
Yeah. No, no, I said, but the manager got
The
it
manager
instead.
got it, but it was like it wasn't meant for him. Then the person who she
Yeah.
murders was the screenwriter. Then she murdered the guy with the pizza outfit, and she tried to frame Mima by stashing it in her apartment. Like that's why
Yeah,
Mima's
and
going
then
nuts. She's like, "What the fuck is wrong with me?" And she's not doing anything. It's this lady who's
and she tried
responsible
to
for
get the
all of it.
otaku,
And
and
she
she tried to
tried to
get the
sick
otaku
that
to
guy.
murder.
And she tried to sick the other otaku on her, and he failed at his job. Thank God. That was the more. I feel like what do you guys think was the most brutal scene in this movie? In all seriousness, like if you had to pick one, 'cause there's a couple. Like I emotionally and physically, like there's a lot of beating in this movie.
Yes.
That's right. Do you want to answer, or do you need some time? Because this is a tough one to answer for me. I have an answer, but it's like
What was the
Well,
question?
which one do you think was the most brutal scene in this movie? Because
Oh.
when you know the reveal, a lot of
Yeah.
it changes for me anyway.
Oh, well, I mean, I found the most brutal scene to be like not even real violence. It was the scene that she was doing, the rape scene.
Mm.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Although, to me, once the reveal happened, I'm like, you know what? She was exhausted. She was doing a good job. She was confident in herself, and she sold the scene. I think the reason
Yes.
why we all feel uncomfortable is because the manager lady is crying, and then like she's
Thumbs
crying,
off.
and then you feel kind of like bad, but then you realize that wait a minute, she's crying because she thinks she's getting hurt. And then
Uh,
Mima's kind of chill up until you see she sees her fish at home, which I'm pretty sure that lady went home and killed her fish. But once the
mhm.
fish happens, that's when she loses her. She snaps like, "Wait a minute, what the hell? Like I've been taking care of the fish, and then like everything comes
Yeah.
crashing down."
Yeah, this would be worth a rewatch to
I
see
I did rewatch it. I had to
Mm.
because I treat these movies kind of like what did I miss the first time, and then
yeah.
just go back a second time. I'm like, all right, I got time now.
Yeah.
But which one did you think was a more brutal scene, Bolt?
I would say the Otaku assault because not only is he like trying to murder, but like also he decides to basically
Yeah.
reenact the sexual assault scene that was in the film onto her. And it's like, wait, I don't think that was part of the plan. You were just told to kill her. What are you doing? Like, I mean, thankfully that it was like it failed, but it was like she had to put up a struggle. Like if it wasn't for those prop tools, the stage tools, it was not prop tools, stage tools being where they were, and having her being an exhausted, mentally taxed person in that situation, it's hard to like fight properly to defend yourself against a crazed lunatic who at that point you thought he was the one going around doing the murders. But like you have to remember, like he got the crap beaten out of him early part in the film by. To be fair, he was jumped, but he there was no way he could have pulled all that off. Although the power of craziness gives people very very unexpected results.
Oh yeah, no, don't ever count out people's psychotic, erratic behavior.
Yeah,
I'm actually
yeah,
going
that's what
with
the
you on
manager
that
took me
one.
off guard.
I actually think that was the hardest scene to watch because I'm like, this is legit now. But on the rewatch, I'm like, still brutal, still the worst one. But I was a lot
Mhm.
happier when she actually managed to get herself out of that trouble. I'm like, good for you, girl. You go, girl. You hit that son of a bitch over the head with that tool belt. Fuck you. Fuck them. Fuck these people. Fight back. It's like when she makes it out, like that's the other side of it too. Like I actually like her character. Like I think they did a really good job of you feel for her because she's not a bad person. She's not cocky. She's not conceited. Even at the ending sequence, she still goes to visit this crazy ass lady, and she still has kind of
Yeah.
like I'm grateful for her because of her. I was able to realize who's the real me, who I really am, and I was able to embrace my reality. And I'm like, good for you. That means you were strong
It's
enough to go through all the
yeah.
things you went through. It wasn't
So it's
bothering
all
you.
okay.
Just yeah, you just had one crazy bitch that kept making you think it was really bad. This is how Black Swan should have ended on a definitive note, but it didn't.
May we
Which
all an have a crazy impersonator that teaches us who we really are.
Good sir. You want to rephrase that statement because
we're gonna
No,
if it
now
wasn't
we
for a
speak
couple of
in
things,
phrase by statement PR department.
we're now going to go
I'm
back to Korea and back to BTS, where there is a guy out there who has been doing everything in his power to look like one of them. I don't know if it was JK or Jimin, one of them. There's some guy out there who has literally white guy who has legitimately paid for the Botox to have the inflated cheeks and the eyes and all that stuff so he can look more like Jimin. He cuts the hair and loses the weight and takes pictures as Jimin doppelganger from BTS. Yeah, You spoke too soon on that one, sir. That one is that one's happening for real.
You know what?
You still
You
want
know
an
what?
impersonator?
I could use I I could use a crazy impersonator. I need to do some soul searching.
Okay,
Anybody who's up
I
for it,
want you to think
come on.
hard because an impersonator will take over your life. Now think back, what is in your life currently at this moment?
What
Sir,
is in my life? There are
sir,
Right,
plenty
what
things
is
that's
in
in
my
your
look,
life.
life?
that's a heavy one, sir. We're just gonna go towards the side that we're all not okay with an impersonator, and that anybody watching this, fuck you, I ain't your friend. All right, I'm just a regular person talking shit on
Okay,
the internet.
watch that. Watch out with that because at this point in the podcast, pretty much everyone who watches this is our friends. So
Any stranger who you pass this along to.
And you wonder why we need a PR department.
I thought that was you, robot. You're talking shit about the AI in your weird B-man room back there, and you haven't said anything, huh?
I've said plenty.
Yeah, folks, this is our first time on visual. I'm a real boy. Oh boy. There you go.
You're not paying for that soundboard, are you? That's awful.
my creator Geppetto is in a parasocial relationship with an inanimate object.
hmm He has the lies of P written all over him. Let's go.
Should play
You
that
said
game at some point.
soundboard. I have a soundboard now. Check this out.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Yep, I got to work this week. The only thing I couldn't get was Krusty the Clown's laugh, which I'm upset by. But I also did get
And
this
it's
too.
okay. All right. Yeah, it should be
You gotta
probably a
love
cue
that.
to wrap up.
You gotta love that Hawaiian lap slide.
Yes, you do. I also got this too. I'm
Can
having
you do the
fun with it.
crusty laugh?
I tried to get the Krusty laugh and I couldn't find it.
No, no, no. Can,
Hey,
yes.
kids!
Can you generate it from your own voice box?
I used to actually do the Krusty laugh. Hey, kids! I can't do it today.
You need a little more like rasp, like a little.
Yeah,
A
I
little
can't do the
more,
rasp that well.
yeah.
It was so much
There we
easier.
go. That was perfect.
There you
Yeah.
go. I used to do it better when I was a
Elmer
kid.
made me give him a sponge bath again.
Oh boy. So
You
I'll
can't
ask.
stop me.
Okay, so
Yeah, it's time to wrap up. When you start referencing Simpsons, it's time to wrap up.
maybe I like referencing The Simpsons. You don't know.
Oh, we know. We know.
That's a peddling. Anyways, so I'll ask you guys for your
All right, come on,
closing
man.
thoughts on.
Close it. Come on.
Maybe,
Wrap.
but how do you know you don't have a problem? I can't do Barney no more. Shit, I lost my voices. So, anyways, guys, I'll ask you guys, what's your closing thought on this one? General opinion on this one, as I look for something to play us out with.
Cautionary tale.
Oh,
Cautionary
Tails.
tale. Well, it shows that you don't need the internet for parasocial relationships to develop and to escalate. I think that it's just that one of the frightening things about the internet is that it facilitates the kinds of crazy behavior that there were more that was more tamped down before the internet. It just makes it easier for people to do the crazy things that have always been kind of stirring around in the populations. It just like in the population, we've always had people with these instincts and these inclinations towards celebrity worship. It's just that now it's easier to do, and that's kind of scary. But there you have it. So
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, if they remade this movie, then the internet would be a big part of it.
The thing is, if at the time it is a big part of it. Because like that
Oh yeah.
blog is what's messing with her the whole
Well, yeah, of
time.
course, yeah, but maybe like social
This,
media. I think,
yeah,
yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
yeah, because this is
There,
like
there,
what,
there was this there was this comedian. I don't know what his name is, but I think it was on like one of those dry bar comedy sets that comedy club in Utah. But he was talking about how you know, back in like the 70s and 80s, if you hated Lionel Richie, you had no way of telling Lionel Richie that you hated him. But now it's like with social media, like you can get in touch with these people and tell them that you hate them. So his bit is like he's saying like if you wanted to tell Lionel Richie that you hated him, you had to buy a ticket to Lionel Richie's show and say, okay, when Lionel Richie comes on, I'm gonna yell out, I hate you, Lionel Richie. And then he comes out and he starts doing some Commodores stuff, and he's like, "Oh wait, I like the Commodores. Oh, okay. Well, after this song, I'm gonna tell him, um, uh, 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 I'm gonna yell out, I hate you, Lionel Richie,' and then and then he starts doing that one song that you like, and you're like, oh wait, I like that song. Oh, okay. Well, after this song, I'm gonna yell out, I hate you, Lionel Richie. And then by the end of the concert, you're like, wait a minute, I think I love Lionel Richie. So so yes, yeah.
that's how it
Just
goes, right? Like
the
you,
internet just like it just like but like the relevant point here is that um uh because of the barriers between you and the celebrity, between you and like the pop star, there your worst instincts were kept in check. Like when things are harder to do, we're less likely to do them. But the internet just lets the crazy flow freely, or social media specifically.
yeah, it does, and that's what's
Yeah.
crazy about it. Uh, Bolt.
Not much aside from there's a song by Paramore called Idol Worship, and that more or less summarizes the state that we are in terms of like not just like pop stars, pop idols, and like even goes on to people that we see on our computer screens, on television, just like anything that you can worship, you shouldn't. Because next thing you know, you're gonna be on the 5 o'clock news, dragged out in handcuffs doing something weird, as in drawing a love you letter in your own feces on someone's like front door that they never give you the address to. Like, don't do
Or
that, people.
or you could just start sending the offline TV kids a bunch of hate mail for whatever reason.
And I am done. Thank you for proving my point.
To quote
Fandom
Bender,
should die. Yeah,
I'll
no,
never,
fandom should die. That's my revision. That's my final statement. Fandom should die.
to quote my favorite cartoon character from the 2000s, Bender bending Rodriguez. They go up to him like, "Are you are you gonna start a fan club for Calculon?" "No, I'm gonna become a stalker." And he shows up to the house. He's like, "What kind of deranged level are you?" In my head, I think we're friends. And he shows him like this diorama. He's like, "Ooh, that is very deranged. You're gonna be my new water heater." Good. So that's fucking crazy. As far as I can tell, there's something that I'll point out to anybody who's listening who may find this under a lot of heaping videos of people in parasocial relationships and all that good stuff. Uh, First things first, focus on yourself and focus on the people around you and the connections that you have with the people around you. Those people that support your behavior. There are people that do drop you if you don't like that you're not in this thing anymore. So find people that want to be around you, don't want to be around BTS, and don't care about BTS as much as they care about you. And I'm sorry to target BTS, but unfortunately, if I were to devote an entire episode, I could devote a 3 hour episode discussing everybody that has gone after that band, and it is insane. I feel bad for them. Like I know they have millions of dollars, but I feel bad for them. I'm like, those people will never live a private life ever again. Ever again. So, like, I don't know how to put it. I just feel for them. So,
I mean, if
but
they moved, they could
they find
they could
them.
emigrate
They
somewhere else.
find
Yeah.
them. No, like there was a
Yeah.
situation again. One more BTS one
Yeah.
for the road. They go skiing somewhere. I think in Sweden or something like that in the Alps. And they filmed all their shots and they go to a cafe. And lo and behold, the lady jockeying the register was a fan. And the first thing she did was, oh my God, it is BTS. And next thing you know, people are
Everyone
fucking.
knows where they are.
They know where they are. They swarm it. They had no security. I think there's like 6 or 7 members. They all look at one another and go, "I'll see you on the other side." And they scatter.
Yeah.
They scatter and they hope to make it to the hotel in peace until they can get to security. Like that. You imagine your life? You can't even have a cup of coffee in peace. And you imagine the types of people who must have left their comfortable homes to go in the snow to go catch a glimpse of BTS having coffee. Like, come on, man. Stay home and enjoy your coffee. Enjoy your life. You know, like, go do something else. If your boss is giving you trouble over there, you tell your boss and take this lesson from us Americans. Don't get overworked. If your boss overworks you, tell him I want a union. If he says there's no union going to fire you, tell him then fuck you. Take this job and shove it. Go grab another job where you have some dignity. But get out of these situations before you find yourself hijacking a band's show, which that roomie lady did, and jumping into a crowd and everybody steps out of the way. That was apparently a real scene. I asked ChatGPT that she wasn't imagining doing that. She was actually dancing with the Cham band. So this is the most deep, thought-provoking film we've covered on this show, and it was an animated one. The animated one hit hard and gave us a lot to divulge
Yeah.
into.
Don't
Doubt it.
Red's scared. Red's scared now.
I'm
Hey.
scared of cartoons. Thanks. Thanks a lot.
It makes you feel
I'll
better. You're
never
not
be
the
able to
only
watch
one.
Mighty Mouse again.
Well, next week we're going to be covering Junji Ito's Uzumaki, which will make you scared of spirals. All right, folks.
I'm already afraid of spirals.
So was I
That's a
after I read
phobia.
that book. Mm-mm. All right, folks. We're not really going to be talking about Uzumaki, so I'm not going to make people watch a show. But we will see
Yeah,
you
we
guys
still have
again.
Yeah, we're gonna log off and figure out what we're gonna talk about next week.
Yes. In the meantime, I'm playing us out to, you know what? If I get attacked by these people, I will screenshot it and send it to all you crazy fans and charge you an arm and a leg. Now in English, folks, I am Pumpkin Jack, and today this is our I'm Pumpkin Jack, and this is our most recent episode of the Gassy Hallows. Today I was accompanied by
Perfect blue bolt.
Oh, yeah, God, it's you, and you can't breathe without me. Sorry. Yeah.
Right, perfect blue
by
bolt.
Red M&M over here. Shit. We will see you guys on the next one. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you. And thanks a lot for joining our chat this time.